do a lot of Q&As on Instagram, and one of the questions that I get asked all the time is, Karin, how in the world do I stick to a schedule? If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, or if you've seen my content, you know that I talk a lot about time management, productivity, and routines, and so I know a thing or two about how to stick to a schedule. I also, if you're new here, have a PhD focused on behavior change, which essentially means I'm here to bring you the real science behind self-help. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I put out a video like this every single week that's going to give you all the tools, tips, and tricks you need in order to become your 2.0 self. Let's talk about that schedule that you are not sticking to. Before I jump into any tips, I want to just start with a little bit of a truth bomb, which is that no schedule is going to be stuck to 100% of the time. And the point of a schedule is not necessarily to stick to it 100% of the time. The point of having a schedule is to give yourself a structure to make decisions. If you block out what your schedule is going to look like and someone asks, hey, can we schedule a call? You know exactly where to put that call because you have an idea of what your life next week and the week after is going to look like. Scheduling is a planning tool, not necessarily a tool that you need to follow through on 100% of the time. So if you stop beating yourself up for not adhering to your schedule every single moment of every single day, that's going to be a great place to start. But let's talk about 3 other tips that I have for you in terms of how to actually stick to a compassionate schedule that you've designed. By the way, if you don't know how to design a schedule or how to design a life that's going to work for you, check out the previous video I have about this exact subject. Okay, let's dive in with some science. I want to talk to you today about something called an uplift. An uplift is a construct in positive psychology, and essentially what it is a moment in your day when you experience mindfulness and joy. This can be playing with your dog or getting your favorite coffee or having a positive interaction with a coworker. It's the little moments in your day that you remember as, wow, that was a really, really cool moment. Now, oftentimes when we are building a schedule and building a routine, we don't think about proactively creating those uplifts. But here's the thing, we need to, because research indicates that having uplifts throughout your day can actually be a proactive buffer against the stressors in our lives. And it can increase our sense of self-control. I'll say that again. If you want to have more self-control, you need to cultivate more positive, uplifting moments throughout your day. And that starts with the schedule. Most people, when you build a schedule for yourself, you block in all of the things you have to do, all of your obligations, all of your to-dos, all of your meetings, but you don't stop to think about how you could adjust or tweak that schedule in a way that would actually bring you a little bit of joy. For example, I used to hate Thursdays. Oh my gosh, Thursdays were like my literal arch nemesis. And I finally adjusted my schedule so I got to sleep in 20 more minutes on Thursdays, and I allowed myself to pick up Starbucks on my way to campus. That was an uplift. And it completely transformed my relationship with that day and actually made Thursdays feel a lot less miserable for me. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at the schedule that you're not sticking to, and I want you to add at least 2 things into one day in your schedule that make you feel positive, joyful, empowered, or even just physically present. Something like going for a 5-minute walk can make a huge difference. In the comments for accountability, I want you to tell me what uplift you're adding to your schedule and how you're going to make sure it happens. Let's move to tip number 2, which is that your schedule should plan for your worst day, not your best day. Now, in our one-on-one coaching program called Alliance Coaching, one of the tools we teach is time blocking. And that's a subject for a whole other video, so I'm not going to teach that here. But time blocking is essentially putting your schedule for the day into your calendar. And one of the things I consistently see clients do, that is a mistake, is they block for their best day, not their worst day. So let's say it usually takes you around 25 minutes to get to work. You block 30 minutes to get to work. Then on the 1 or 2 or 3 days per week that you experience traffic, you're screwed. And your whole day is then delayed because you initially planned for the best case scenario. The schedule that you're actually going to be able to stick to is one that allows for life to happen. It's one that's compassionate. It's one that plans 45 minutes for that commute instead of 30. And guess what? On the days you get there early, you're gonna feel amazing. But on the days that there is traffic, knowing you have that 45 minutes is gonna help you feel calm, peaceful, and grounded instead of rushed, chaotic, and like you failed to stick to your plan. All right, and that brings me to tip number 3 I have for sticking to your schedule, which is to divide your day mentally into quarters. So for me, Q1 goes from right now about 5 a.m. to about 9 a.m., Q2, 9 a.m. to noon, Q3, noon to 5, Q4, 5 to midnight. It doesn't have to be even, but you want to give yourself specific points where you think you're transitioning into a new quarter of your day. This is really useful based on research about the fresh start effect. When we feel like something is a fresh start, when we feel like there is a disconnect between the past and the future, that can be really empowering for us. And so let's say that you wake up and you have a really bad morning, you can say, you know what? Quarter 1 today was an absolute shit show, but I'm gonna refocus on Quarter 2 and make it better. That moment at 9 a.m. when you check in with yourself, I like to call that a pivot point. So having pivot points built into your day where you can make adjustments if you're not sticking to your schedule, if you're not doing the things you want to do, if you're not following through, have a point in your day where you can stop, pivot, and move in the direction that you want. Let's recap. Tip number 1 is to include uplifts. I want to hear in the comments below what uplifts you're going to put into your schedule. Tip number 2 is to plan for the worst day, not necessarily the best case scenario. And tip number 3 is to divide your day into quarters. By the way, if you're loving the education you're getting here, make sure you're signed up for my Tuesday Toolbox email list. Every single Tuesday, I send out information on a concrete change skill like cognitive flexibility or growth mindset, along with tips and tricks for how to adopt that skill and grow it in your own life. This is content I don't talk about anywhere else. It is exclusive to my email list, so you will only get it if you subscribe. The link is in the description below. And by the way, if you have no routine, no schedule that you're currently sticking to, I want you to go back and watch my previous video, which is all about how to design a life you want, because that will hopefully give you an awesome place to start.